Welcome back to Open Line, tackling that tough issue of guns. And always happy to have with us John Harris, Executive Director of the Tennessee Firearms Association. Other night we had the other side on, and we're talking about red flag laws. Should we have them in Tennessee? Should we have them at all? 17 states do have them. John Harris is opposed to them.
In general, yeah.
And so let's go to the phones here. Let's go to Joe. Hello, Joe.
Okay, yes.
Go right ahead.
Just listen to your lead-ins. I know John and the Tennessee Firearms Association has been beating their head against the wall for 10 to 15, 20 years now, trying to get some reasonable gun laws in effect in Tennessee. But that being said, can't remember, maybe John can refresh my memory, but I can't remember when any mass shooter had a gun permit. These people, social media is driving a lot of this stuff, and then the media itself drives a lot of it, because once it happens, they just keep talking about it. And you got these people that, whether they're mentally ill or just, I don't know their problems, but they come right along and see one of these mass shooters, and then the next day or two, you see another one. So the United States, like you said earlier, that you didn't see this in these other countries. The United States is real good at coming along after the fact and trying to come up with a solution after the fact. They need to be doing something before the fact, just like you've been talking about. I don't know about this red flag law, where it's all that great or not, but like John said before, by the time it gets through the process of somebody complaining, if you watch every one of these mass shootings, just about, you go around and talk to the people that's around these guys, or whoever, they'll tell you that these people have problems.
Right.
And they get on social media and then say what they're going to do.
All right.
I mean,
well,
we've got a real big problem here.
We do have a big problem. All right, I'm hearing you say a couple things, and Joe, I appreciate the call. Joe seems to support the work you've done. He says the media is part of the reason for this. He says social media is part of the reason for this. And boy, we live in a world where there's just information all around us, and it's all sides, and I don't blame Joe for feeling that way. And then he said, you know, he seems to support you, but then he says we need to do something.
Yeah.
You know,
and I don't necessarily disagree that there is something that maybe can and should be done, but I don't think it's the red flag approach. Because I think, you know, something we talked about before the break, and Joe sort of hit on, is it strikes me, looking at the different reports that have come down over the years, that we're getting to a point in this country where these mass shootings really have two types of shooters. It's the mental health, a variety of different mental health issues, but basically a mental health component. Parkland, what we just saw in El Paso, apparently what happened in Dayton, all mental health apparently related. But then we have like the nightclub shootings, and the one that took place in California, a year or so ago, that didn't necessarily seem to be mental health. It seemed to be more ideological, that they were the domestic terrorist, but not necessarily someone that was crazy. You didn't have their neighbors coming out and saying they were, you know, they had kill lists and that they were writing manifestos. You clearly, and red flag laws doesn't help that second group at all, it seems to me. So what red flag is really, I think, ultimately talking about, but doing it in the wrong direction, is how do we protect society from the mental health risk. Their solution is take the gun away. That's got its whole set of problems, and it doesn't do anything to prevent access to other kinds of weapons. I think, as we talked about that Supreme Court case earlier, the real issue is do we need to rethink our values in terms of how should society deal with prophylactically, so to speak, mental health problems once we identify a mental health condition.
Big time. I agree with that. All right, let's go to Jamal. Hello, Jamal.
Good evening, gentlemen. How y'all doing tonight?
Doing great. Thanks for holding. What's on your mind?
Well, I was looking at the red flag laws, and I was understanding the concept of the after effects of the mass shootings. We're trying to take guns and stuff like that. But crime and punishment is enforcement. Everybody needs to stop looking at the shooter, start looking at the victim. And how many of these mass shooters have been put to death? Because they had the mental awareness to buy the gun, to buy the bullets, to think about going out and killing large amounts of people, but the punishment is not fitting the crime. And if social media, all of that, you show the deaths and the shootings all over, let's show the end result of that person taking it in their hands to take other people's lives. And they've taken hundreds of lives over the last 10, 20 years. But how many of their lives have been taken? And mental health can be put on anyone, because we all have everyday problems that can push us over the edge. And you don't know what day that you might be pushed over the edge. But a deterrent to that is there's a punishment for you going past a certain line in our society, and death has to be that punishment. Because when you walk, it's the elementary school shootings, all of these shootings, somebody has to die other than the victims. And I understand the parents of those mental health shooters don't want to hear this part of it, but if you kill my kid because guns were available to him and you gave it back to him like they did at the Waffle House shooting, there needs to be responsibility. And I'm a gun holder. I lock them up. I don't let anybody have them. But I accept the responsibility of my actions, that if I take a life or take many lives because I've chosen to go out, buy guns, bullets, and walk around and instead of getting mental health help from the city and all the agencies out here, you can't kill people without repercussions to you.
All right, well, let's talk about that. All right, Jamal, thank you. All right, he's saying a couple of things. I think a lot of these people that go in to do these kind of things don't expect to live, and many times they don't. They go in with a death. They understand they're going to die. They publish a manifesto or they do whatever they're going to do, and they don't expect to live. The guy, this horrible human being down in El Paso, he did survive, and that is kind of astounding. Most of them don't survive. I don't know that we're going to solve this with a death penalty. I mean, that seems like, because I think a lot of these people are planning on dying anyway. Well, I sure hope that guy gets what's coming to him.
I understand. I think what Jamal is saying, and my undergraduate degree before I became an attorney was in sociology, and my emphasis in sociology was criminal deviant behavior. And one thing you learn right off the bat if you study that field is, for punishment to be a deterrent to future criminal conduct, either to that individual or to society in general, the punishment has to be swift, it has to be certain, and it has to be effective. All of those, and we don't have that. Someone gets a death sentence, there's no swiftness to a 20-year appeal period. You know, we had it right 100 years ago, maybe, when they hung horse thieves on the spot. Maybe that was too swift.
Yeah.
But the point is, there needs to be swift, certain, and effectiveness. And if what he's saying is we need potentially public executions, or something that wasn't so remote in time or separation from distance, so that the public could actually see the execution being carried out if they wanted to, then that might have a deterrent effect. But the problem is, even with that, it's only going to have a deterrent effect for rational individuals. The crazy guy's not going to understand it.
Into even more of a martyr. Then there's more attention focused on this crazy person who could use that platform. And I hope we're not advocating going down that road. The other thing he said was the parents in the Waffle House shooting who gave a gun to somebody who shouldn't have had a gun, they should be held responsible. How do you feel about, is there some way to legislate that? How do you feel about going down that road?
Well, that's a tough problem, and it's going to turn on, did those parents, is it ultimately going to be determined that those parents violated some criminal statute? They've been charged with it, but a court's still going to have to construe the statute and see if it applies to those facts. There might be, I mean, we've got negligent entrustment kind of liability issues in this state. Other states have it. It's potentially that there might be a criminal act where the parents in Waffle House could be held responsible for facilitating somehow the fact that once they gave the guns back, somewhere down the road, their son committed a criminal act.
Don't give guns to somebody who's not supposed to have guns.
Well, that's the question.
Good grief. But yeah, okay, let's go to Carrie. Hello, Carrie. Carrie,
Yeah.
are you there? Go right ahead, Carrie.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes. I'm all for having guns because I hunt and fish. My kids hunt and fish. And have you ever thought about teaching people about God?
Thought about, I'm sorry, what did you say?
Thought about teaching these people about God.
Some more religion?
And an everlasting life with God, their personal Savior.
Okay, all right. I understand that, and we just have a lot of calls. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, people should definitely look into that. I agree. Let's go to Alfred. Hello, Alfred. All right, turn down your TV. I'm going to go to Vanessa. Hello, Vanessa.
Yes. My thing is we giving guns to, these rifles that's used in military to everyday citizens. And I don't understand why we have to put those type of guns in people's hands. If we didn't have those type of guns, we wouldn't have these mass shootings. You can still, we won't trample over anybody's right to own guns, but those type of guns should not be available, and we wouldn't be sitting in this position as we speak. And this is what I'm trying to get across. But everybody want to fight. Well, I have the right to own this. I have a right to own that. But look what's going on. And it's these type of guns that's doing it. It's not the guns you have to reload and load and reload and load. Ain't nobody using those in mass shootings.
Right.
But if you take those away, there will be less of this.
All right. All right. Well, let's talk about that. And we've certainly heard that. That's separate from these red flag laws, but that's what we're hearing over and over. People are frustrated that these same kinds of weapons are being used, and it's so easy to kill so many people so quickly with these guns. They're falling into the hands of these crazy people, and they're doing these horrible mass shootings. What about these weapons?
Well, the U.S. Supreme Court's already addressed that. It's addressed it in the Miller decision and it addressed in 1939, and then Scalia addressed it in the Heller decision, and basically both of those opinions have said, as well as McDonald versus City of Chicago, so there's 3 cases, all Supreme Court cases, which have all said basically, under the Second Amendment as it now exists, those are the kinds of weapons that are protected by the Second Amendment to civilian ownership. So there's a lot of people that disagree with the caller. There are people, obviously, that agree with her. But the Supreme Court has essentially said, based on the Second Amendment, those are ownable weapons by the average civilian population, and if you don't like it, you got to change the Second Amendment. And I like it the way it is.
You have to change the whole Second Amendment, and you like it the way it is. But yeah, though you said something about 1930 something.
1939.
So
US
things have
versus Miller.
changed a lot since then. So should we evolve? The kinds of weapons that are available have changed a lot. Should we evolve with what's appropriate?
Well, but see, that's the interesting point is, in the Miller decision in 1939, the U.S. Department of Justice wrote in their brief that it was beyond dispute that the kinds of weapons that the Second Amendment protects to civilian ownership, and I'm paraphrasing, are those categories of weapons that are used by modern military forces. The government's argument in Miller was the particular gun involved there, which was a sawed-off shotgun, isn't used by the military, so the Second Amendment doesn't protect it. And the Supreme Court said no. Well, they said yes to the point of it's the military-grade weapons that are protected, and the Supreme Court said we're going to ask the trial court to have a hearing on whether or not the sawed-off shotgun is used by the military. But from Miller all the way up through Heller, the case law is clear at the Supreme Court level that it is that grade of weapon that the Second Amendment protects.
That grade meaning military grade.
Military grade.
That civilians should have access to whatever the military has access to.
Well, the whatever part gets into the issue of tanks and bazookas and all this other stuff. I'm talking an infantry weapon, let's put it that way.
Okay.
What the foot soldier would carry.
Okay. All right. Well, that's very interesting. All right, let's go to Jerry. Hello, Jerry.
Yes.
Go right ahead. What's on your mind?
I'd like to thank John first for being on here and being able to keep a level head. But what I want a lot of the hunters, and which I don't own an AR or a assault rifle, that these are just semi-automatic rifles, just like 90% of the hunters have shotguns and regular 22s or 30-30s or whatever, that they're no difference other than the way they're made. And I'll stop this and listen to y'all's commentary. Thank you.
So we appreciate you being on and keeping a level head.
I've won one guy over so far tonight.
All right, what's his point there? These are the same. He's a hunter. He doesn't have an AR. I think. I hope I'm saying that.
His point is what we learned through the social experiment that was called the assault weapons ban of the 90s. Okay, there was a 10-year window when certain assault weapons, under federal law, it was a 10-year window, were banned to civilian ownership. And under that assault weapons ban, the definition of what was a banned gun or wasn't a banned gun turned entirely upon what it looked like, not what it did. And the demographics and the data following that ban was so overwhelmingly clear that it didn't make a difference. It didn't reduce crime. It didn't increase crime. It had no effect on public safety.
What if I argued that in 1990, in the 90s, we had far fewer of these mass shootings, and now we seem to have them every week?
Well, we did, but we had the same general volume by population of those guns. So it's not like the volume of those guns has materially increased in relation to the population. What's changed, I submit, is the mental health component. It's either increasing or it's becoming more of a severe problem because we're not addressing it, and it's just sort of proliferating.
Okay. All right, we have to take a break. If you're on the line, hold on. If you want to call in, there are a couple lines open. There's the number, 615-737-PLUS, 615-737-7587. But hold on. Promise we'll get to your call. I'll be back right after this.